First contact. The Arctic wind howled across the research station's reinforced walls as Dr. Sarah Chen peered through her microscope at what might be the most important discovery of her career. The microorganism shouldn't exist. Not here, not 3 kilometers beneath the ice, and certainly not with a genetic structure that defied everything she knew about carbon-based life. Integration complete. No match found in any known database, her AI assistant announced, its voice barely audible over the station's humming environmental systems. Sarah straightened, her back protesting after hours hunched over the equipment. The sample structure was like nothing she'd ever seen. Crystalline formations that somehow maintained biological functions, replicating in patterns that seemed to follow their own laws of physics. The discovery would have been enough to justify the past 3 years of isolated research, but Sarah knew she couldn't publish yet. Something about the organism's behavior suggested intelligence, not just adaptation, but purpose. In the week since she'd found it, the crystal structures had rearranged themselves into increasingly complex patterns, like a language she couldn't quite read. She was about to run another analysis when the lights flickered. In the Arctic winter's perpetual darkness, even a moment's power loss could be catastrophic. But this wasn't a normal power fluctuation. The air itself seemed to vibrate, and through the reinforced windows, she saw something impossible. The northern lights, usually green and ethereal, had turned a deep, pulsing purple. The emergency systems kicked in, bathing the lab in red light, but Sarah barely noticed. Her attention was fixed on her sample. The crystalline structures were moving, arranging themselves into a perfect geometric pattern that glowed with the same purple light that filled the sky. Warning, the AI's voice crackled. Unknown energy signature detected. Magnitude exceeding all known natural phenomena. Sarah reached for the sample container, but before she could secure it, every screen in the lab erupted with the same pattern she'd seen in her microscope. The air shimmered, and reality itself seemed to fold inward at the center of her lab. The being that stepped through the fold in space was both beautiful and terrifying. Towering nearly 8 feet tall, she, and Sarah was certain it was a she, had skin that seemed to shift between shades of opal and starlight. Her form was humanoid but clearly alien, with proportions that suggested evolution under different gravitational conditions. What looked like living crystal formations grew from her shoulders and crown, pulsing with the same purple light that had filled the sky. Dr. Sarah Chen. The being spoke, her voice resonating on frequencies that made Sarah's bones vibrate. I am Empress Naira of the Crystalline Dominion. We have watched your work with great interest. Sarah's scientific mind warred with her instinct to run. The sample, she managed to say. It's yours. A beacon, the Empress replied, moving closer with fluid grace. Left for someone who could understand it. You've proven yourself more capable than any other being on your world. Why me? Sarah asked, her fear giving way to curiosity. Why here? Because you alone sought truth in the deepest cold, in the most isolated place on your planet. Because you saw patterns where others saw chaos. Because your mind. The Empress paused, her crystalline features arranging themselves into what might have been a smile. Your mind works like ours. The implication staggered Sarah. Not just first contact, but a deliberately orchestrated meeting. What do you want? Our civilization faces a crisis that we cannot solve alone. Our understanding of biological life is limited. We are creatures of crystalline energy, existing in ways your science is only beginning to grasp. But we need someone who understands both, the organic and the crystalline, the conventional and the impossible. The Empress extended her hand, and above it, a hologram formed, a massive crystalline city floating in space, its structures impossibly beautiful and clearly dying, portions of it turning black and lifeless. We offer you a choice, Dr. Chen. Help us understand why our people are dying, why our cities are darkening. In return, we will share knowledge that would advance your species by centuries. Or refuse, and we will find another way. Though I believe you are our best hope. Sarah looked at her life's work scattered around the lab, at the mysteries she'd devoted herself to understanding. Then she looked at the dying city in the hologram, at the chance to solve a puzzle that spanned worlds. "Before I answer," Sarah said, her scientist's mind already racing with possibilities, "I need to know everything. What makes you think I can help? What are you telling me about this crisis? And most importantly, why do I feel like there's something familiar about your energy signature?" The Empress's crystalline features shifted in what might have been surprise. "You sense it already. Perhaps you are even more suitable than we hoped. Very well, Dr. Chen. Let me show you the truth about both our peoples, and why your unique perspective might be the key to our survival." The air shimmered again, and Sarah watched as the lab around them transformed into a three-dimensional star map, with Earth and the crystalline Dominion's home system connected by lines of energy she somehow recognized in her bones. She was about to learn that her lifelong obsession with unusual life forms hadn't been mere scientific curiosity. It had been preparation for something far more extraordinary. The challenge. The star map floating in Sarah's lab shifted, focusing on a cluster of crystalline structures that pulsed with the same purple energy she'd observed in her samples. With each pulse, dark patches spread like decay through the otherwise brilliant formations. "Our civilization evolved differently than yours," Empress Naira explained, her crystalline form refracting light in complex patterns. "We are living matrices of energy and mineral, existing in a state your physics would consider impossible. For millennia, we thrived, building cities that spanned solar systems, creating art from the very fabric of space-time." Sarah watched as the hologram showed the evolution of the crystalline Dominion. Magnificent structures that grew like living things, ships that traveled through space by folding reality itself, and beams of pure energy and crystal communicating through pulses of light and geometric patterns. "But now something is breaking down at a fundamental level," Sarah observed, her scientific mind already analyzing the patterns of decay. "These energy signatures, they're not just failing, they're changing into something else." The Empress's features sharpened with interest. "You see it already." "Yes, our people are not just dying. They're transforming into something we don't understand, something that shouldn't be possible." Sarah moved closer to one of the holographic projections, studying the intricate patterns of energy flow. "These formations, they're similar to the microorganisms I found in the ice, but they're also reminiscent of human neural patterns. How is that possible?" "That, Dr. Chen, is where your importance becomes clear." The Empress waved her hand, and new images appeared. Ancient cave paintings, Egyptian hieroglyphs, medieval manuscripts, all showing crystalline formations and beings of light. "We have visited Earth many times throughout your history, but only now, only through your research, have we found someone who might understand both sides of the equation." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared through the station. Her AI assistant's voice cut through the noise. "Multiple unknown energy signatures detected, temporal distortions forming." The Empress's form tensed, her crystalline appendages flaring with defensive energy. "We are not alone. There are those in my empire who oppose this collaboration. They believe the solution lies in conquest rather than cooperation." The air crackled with energy as multiple tiers in spacetime opened around them. Through each stepped beings similar to Naira, but darker, their crystalline forms shot through with veins of obsidian. Their leader, a towering figure with shards of black crystal jutting from his form, addressed the Empress in a voice that made the very air vibrate. "This ends now, Naira. The human cannot be trusted with our secrets." He turned his attention to Sarah, his voice filled with contempt. "Your species is too young, too chaotic. You understand nothing of the true nature of reality." Sarah felt fear, but something else was rising within her, a strange resonance with the energy patterns around her. The hostile being's presence should have been overwhelming, yet somehow their energy signatures felt familiar. "You're wrong," she found herself saying, stepping forward. "Your energy patterns, They're not just similar to human neural networks. They're evolving to match them. That's what's happening to your people, isn't it? You're not dying. You're adapting. The dark crystalline being moved to strike, but Sarah raised her hand instinctively. To everyone's shock, including her own, the purple energy that filled the room responded, forming a barrier between her and the attackers. Impossible, the dark figure hissed. No organic being can manipulate quantum crystalline energy. But Sarah was barely listening. Her mind was racing with implications. Empress, your people aren't suffering from decay. They're undergoing metamorphosis. The patterns I found in the ice, they weren't just a beacon. They were a bridge, weren't they? A way to understand what your people are becoming. The Empress moved to Sarah's side, her own energy field harmonizing with the barrier Sarah had somehow created. Now you begin to understand why you were chosen, why it had to be you. The hostile beings pressed forward, their combined energy making reality itself groan in protest. But Sarah felt no fear now, only a growing certainty that she stood at the edge of a discovery that would change both their species forever. Your civilization isn't dying, she declared, watching as the energy patterns around them shifted and danced. It's evolving. And somehow, humanity is the key to understanding why. The dark crystalline leader's response was cut short by a new alarm. But this time, it wasn't just the station's systems warning them. Every piece of equipment in the lab, every screen and sensor, began displaying the same complex pattern. A perfect fusion of crystalline structure and organic neural networks. The pattern that Sarah had seen in her dreams since childhood. The pattern that had driven her to study the impossible life forms beneath the ice. The pattern that now burned in her mind like a key finally finding its lock. The real question, she said, looking between the Empress and their attackers, isn't why I can manipulate your energy. The question is, what happened in Earth's past that left humans with the potential to bridge the gap between organic and crystalline life? And more importantly, what does that mean for the future of both our species? The answer would shake the foundations of both civilizations, and Sarah Chen, the scientist who had sought understanding in Earth's most isolated place, would be the one to discover it. Hidden agenda. The pattern blazing across every screen in the Arctic Research Station pulsed in perfect synchronization with Sarah's heartbeat. The hostile crystalline beings had fallen back, their obsidian-veined forms vibrating with what might have been fear or recognition. The convergence protocol, the dark leader whispered, his contempt replaced by something closer to awe. It wasn't just a myth. Empress Nyra's crystalline form flared with triumph. Now you understand. Vex. Why this human? Why this moment? The ancient prophecies weren't speaking of destruction, but of transformation. Sarah's mind raced as she processed the implications. The energy barrier she had created still hummed around them, but now she could see it for what it really was, not just a defense, but a demonstration of something that should have been impossible. The perfect fusion of organic neural patterns and crystalline quantum structures. Your civilization's founders, she said slowly, pieces clicking into place. They didn't just visit Earth. They changed us, didn't they? Encoded something in our DNA, waiting for the right moment in both our species' evolution. The Empress nodded, her form shifting to project new images. Ancient genetic structures, spiral patterns that were neither fully organic nor purely crystalline. We seeded potential in your species, yes, but what we didn't expect was how humanity would transform that potential. Your capacity for adaptation, for evolution, it exceeded everything we thought possible. And now your people are evolving to match that potential. Sarah continued, understanding flooding through her. The decay isn't decay at all. It's your crystalline structures trying to adopt more flexible organic patterns. Patterns that look exactly like human consciousness. Vex, the dark crystalline leader, moved forward, but this time without hostility. If this is true, then our entire understanding of the convergence was wrong. We thought it meant the end of our civilization, The collapse of everything we built. Because you were afraid, Sarah realized. Afraid of becoming something new, something that wasn't purely crystalline anymore. That's why you wanted to stop this. Not to prevent your civilization's death, but to prevent its transformation. The pattern continued to pulse across the screens, but now Sarah could read it like a language. The perfect mathematical expression of consciousness itself, neither purely organic nor purely crystalline, but something gloriously in between. "But there's something you're still not telling me," she said, turning to the Empress. "This isn't just about evolution or transformation. There's more at stake, isn't there?" Naira's form dimmed slightly, a gesture Sarah now recognized as concern. "We are not the only civilization facing this moment of change. Across the galaxy, ancient seeded protocols are activating. Some species are ready for the transformation. Others—" She paused, her crystalline features arranging themselves into an expression of worry. "Others are responding with violence, fear, or dangerous attempts to force the process." New holograms appeared, showing other worlds, other civilizations, some crystalline like the Dominion, others organic, still others based on forms of life Sarah could barely comprehend. All of them showing signs of the same transformation. A galaxy-wide metamorphosis, Sarah breathed. But why now? What triggered it? Before anyone could respond, the pattern on the screens changed. The AI assistant's voice cut through the tension. "Unknown radiation detected. Quantum entanglement levels exceeding measurable limits." Sarah felt it before she saw it. A surge of energy that made her previous connection to the crystalline powers feel like a spark compared to a supernova. The very fabric of reality around them began to warp, not from any external force, but from something awakening deep within the Earth itself. "The core seed," Vex said, his dark crystalline form resonating with the new energy. "It wasn't just humanity you seeded, was it, Empress? You placed something at the heart of this world, waiting for the right moment, the right person." "Not just this world," Naira replied. "Every world with the potential for the convergence has a core seed. And now, after millennia of waiting, they're all awakening. The question is no longer whether the transformation will happen, but whether we can guide it safely." She turned to Sarah. "Whether you can guide it." Sarah looked at her hands, watching as faint traces of crystalline energy danced across her skin. The barrier she had created was changing, becoming something more complex, more integrated with the very air around them. She could feel connections forming, not just to the crystalline beings in the room, but to something vast and ancient buried deep within the Earth. "I need to know everything," she said, her voice steady despite the enormous weight of the moment. "About the core seeds, about what you really expect this transformation to do, and about why you truly chose me. Because this isn't just about bridging organic and crystalline life anymore, is it? This is about something bigger, something that could either unite the galaxy or tear it apart." The Empress's response was cut short by a new alarm, not from the station's systems this time, but from deep within the Earth itself. The core seed was awakening, and with it, secrets that had been buried since the dawn of human civilization were about to come to light. The choice. The Arctic Research Station shuddered as energy pulses from deep within the Earth sent shockwaves through the permafrost. Sarah's instruments were registering power readings that defied known physics, while the crystalline beings in the room, both Empress Naira's followers and Vex's former opposition, had begun to resonate with the growing energy. "The core seed isn't just awakening," Sarah said, watching as new data flooded her screens. "It's responding to something. A signal." She turned to the Empress, whose form was now pulsing with intense light. "Not just one signal," Naira replied, her voice carrying harmonics that made reality itself vibrate. "Thousands. Every core seed in the galaxy is activating simultaneously. The convergence cannot be stopped now, but it can still go terribly wrong." The dark crystalline leader, Vex, moved closer to one of Sarah's monitors. "These readings, the energy patterns are becoming chaotic. The transformation is happening too quickly, too violently. Sarah could feel it. The barrier of energy she had created earlier was now part of a larger field that filled the entire station. Through it, she could sense the awakening core seed kilometers below, its power building towards something that felt like either transcendence or catastrophe. "Show me everything," she demanded. "No more secrets, no more half-truths. What really happens during the convergence?" The Empress raised her crystalline hands, and the air around them transformed into a vast simulation. Sarah watched as countless civilizations across the galaxy reached the same moment of transformation. In some scenarios, the merger of organic and crystalline life created something beautiful, beings of unimaginable potential, neither bound by physical form nor disconnected from it. But in others, total collapse, she whispered, watching as worlds tore themselves apart, the energy of failed transformations rippling out to destroy entire solar systems. The integration has to be perfect, doesn't it? Even a slight misalignment between the organic and crystalline patterns would cascade through the quantum entanglement network created by the core seeds. Vex finished, leading to a chain reaction that could unravel the very fabric of space-time. New alarms blared as the energy readings spiked again. Through the station's reinforced windows, Sarah could see the northern lights had become a storm of impossible colors, reflecting the power building beneath the Earth's surface. "That's why you need me," she realized. "Not just because I can bridge both forms of life, but because I have to." "What?" "Guide the transformation. Stabilize it." "More than that," Naira said, her form flickering with urgency. "You must become the template, the pattern that all other transformations will follow. Your unique genetic structure, combined with your understanding of both organic and crystalline life, makes you the only being capable of creating a stable integration." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You want me to be the first, to undergo the transformation before anyone else, to create a pathway for others to follow." She looked at her hands, where crystalline patterns now danced beneath her skin. "But if I fail, then reality itself begins to unravel," Vex said grimly. "Starting here, spreading outward at the speed of thought through the quantum network to every core seed in the galaxy." The station's structure groaned as another energy wave pulsed from below. Sarah's instruments were showing critical readings in every category, and through her growing connection to the crystalline energy field, she could feel the pressure building. They were running out of time. "There's something else," she said, studying the Empress's shifting form. "Something you're still holding back. What happens to me if I succeed? What happens to my humanity?" Naira's crystalline features arranged themselves into an expression of deep sorrow. "We don't know. Nothing like this has ever been attempted. You would be the first being in the history of the galaxy to undergo a complete quantum organic integration. You might transcend to something beyond our understanding. Or I might lose everything that makes me human." Sarah finished. "All my memories, my consciousness, my very identity, transformed into something unrecognizable." The choice loomed before her: risk everything, including her own existence, for the chance to guide both civilizations into a new era of existence, or watch as the uncontrolled transformation tore reality apart. Through the quantum energy field, Sarah could feel other core seeds awakening across the galaxy. Countless civilizations holding their breath, waiting for the moment of transformation. All of them connected, all of them dependent on what happened here, in this isolated research station at the top of the world. She looked at her life's work scattered around the lab, the years of research that had led her to this moment, the mysteries she had pursued not knowing they would lead to this ultimate choice. Then she looked at the beings before her, crystalline and dark, all of them waiting for her decision. The next alarm that sounded wasn't a warning. It was a signal that the moment of choice had arrived. The core seed's energy had reached critical levels. The transformation would begin, one way or another, in the next few moments. Sarah Chen, the scientist who had sought understanding in Earth's most isolated place, faced the greatest experiment in the history of two civilizations, And as the energy of a galaxy's worth of core seeds pulsed through her, she made her choice. Legacy of two worlds. In the fraction of a second before Sarah made her choice, time seemed to slow. The quantum energy field she had generated now filled the research station with sheets of impossible light, and through it she could feel the pulse of every core seed across the galaxy. Each one a beacon of potential, each one waiting for the pattern that would guide their transformation. But in that moment of crystal clarity, Sarah realized something that both the Empress and Vex had missed. "You're wrong," she said, her voice carrying new harmonics as the energy field responded to her understanding. "I'm not supposed to be the template. I'm supposed to be the bridge." The crystalline beings watched in astonishment as Sarah stepped into the center of the energy field. The northern lights outside had become a tornado of quantum fire, reflecting the power building beneath the Earth's surface. "The transformation isn't about becoming something entirely new," she continued, raising her hands as crystalline patterns flowed across her skin. "It's about finding the balance that already exists within us. Humanity wasn't just seeded with potential. We were meant to demonstrate that organic and crystalline life could coexist in the same form. We've been doing it all along." Through her connection to the field, Sarah projected what she had discovered: human consciousness itself, with its quantum properties that scientists had puzzled over for centuries. The crystalline structures in human cellular biology. The way human thoughts could influence quantum states at a fundamental level. "We don't need to transform into something new," she declared as the energy built around her. "We need to awaken what's already there. In all of us." With that realization, Sarah reached out, not to control the energy of the core seed, but to harmonize with it. The quantum field responded, its patterns shifting from chaos to complexity. Through it, she could feel the other core seeds across the galaxy adjusting, finding the same resonance. "Impossible," Vex whispered, watching as his own crystalline form began to shift, not into decay but into something more intricate. "The patterns, they're stabilizing themselves." Empress Nyra's form blazed with sudden understanding. "Of course. We thought we needed to force the evolution, to guide it. But the pattern was already there, in the very structure of life itself. We just needed someone who could see it." The transformation rippled outward from the Arctic station, carried on waves of quantum resonance through the network of core seeds. But instead of the catastrophic change they had feared, it was more like an awakening, a realization of potential that had always existed. Sarah felt her consciousness expand, not losing her humanity but growing beyond it. She could sense the changes spreading across Earth. Humans awakening to find they could perceive quantum states, interface with crystalline structures, access levels of reality they had never imagined. At the same time, the crystalline beings were discovering new depths of emotion, new ways of experiencing the universe through organic perception. Through the quantum network, she witnessed similar awakenings on countless worlds, species that had been seeded with the same potential, all of them finding their own balance between the organic and the crystalline, each in their own unique way. "This is what the convergence really is," she said, her voice carrying across quantum frequencies to reach every awakening civilization. "Not an ending or a forced evolution, but an invitation to understand what we've always been capable of." The energy storm began to settle, the northern lights returning to their natural patterns, but now carrying subtle crystalline structures that alert eyes might notice. Around her, both Nyra's and Vex's followers were experiencing their own transformations, their rigid crystalline forms becoming more fluid, more alive, while retaining their essential nature. "You've given us more than survival," Nyra said, her form now a perfect blend of crystal clarity and organic fluidity. "You've shown us how to grow without losing ourselves." Vex, his once dark crystalline form now shot through with living light, bowed his head. "We sought to prevent change by force, never realizing that the very ability to adapt and grow was what we needed most." Sarah looked at her hands, where crystalline patterns now flowed naturally beneath her skin. She could feel the quantum world as easily as the physical one, could process information through both organic neurons and crystalline matrices. But she was still herself, still human, just more aware of the full spectrum of her humanity's potential. "The work is just beginning," she said, already seeing the challenges and opportunities ahead. The Earth would need guidance as humanity awakened to its new capabilities. The galaxy would need help establishing new protocols for communication and cooperation between transformed civilizations. But as she stood in her Arctic laboratory, now a bridge point between two forms of life that had never truly been separate, Sarah Chen felt only excitement for the future. She had sought understanding in Earth's most isolated place, and in doing so, had helped connect all of life itself. "Let's begin," she said, and across the galaxy, countless civilizations took their first steps into a future where the boundaries between organic and crystalline, between consciousness and quantum reality, were no longer barriers but bridges to something greater than either could have achieved alone.